Hello YouTube and welcome to the next route learning video and the second of a three-part series on the Pacific Surfliner route in the USA. So with all three parts together we're making the full run from Los Angeles to San Diego, which is a distance of around 128 miles. However, to do the whole run in one go takes around 3 hours, which I felt is just too long for a route learning video, so I have split it down into three parts. In part 1, which I uploaded recently, we travelled from Los Angeles to Irvine. So in this second part we're taking over Amtrak train 784 and following its real schedule from Irvine towards Oceanside, which is a distance of just over 41 miles, with one intermediate stop along the way at San Juan Capistrano. Now I may have pronounced that horrendously wrong, I hope I got it right, but knowing me, I probably didn't. Unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with the area or some of the Spanish-sounding place names, so if I do pronounce places wrong, do feel free to correct me in the comments. Our attraction for the journey is an Amtrak EMD F59 PHI locomotive with a Pacific Surfliner set which consists of 5 double-deck cars, and on the rear we have a cab car which is what's like a DVT in the UK, so you could drive from the rear with the locomotive pushing the train, and that's the direction you were travelling if you were going to Los Angeles. So as we're going from Los Angeles, we're driving from the locomotive. I'm not going to give a full introduction to the locomotive in this video, as I've already done so in part 1, going over some of the technical details and taking a look around the cab. So if you would like more detailed information about the loco, then please do watch part 1 of this video, or at least the introduction to part 1, which goes through that. Departing from Irvine, the starting speed limit is 90 miles per hour, and we've got around 12.25 miles to go to the next stop, which is Oceanside. So as you can see, I'm just gradually stepping up the power now to not give the train too much power at once, which is not a good idea and could also cause wheel slip. And as we get towards 20 miles per hour, I'm then going to go straight up to full power. As you can see, we're approaching 20 now, so I like to go into full power around that point. And I'm now going to turn off the bell as we've left the station area. I know I don't often talk about myself a lot in these videos, but I'm in the mood for celebrating today, so I just thought I'd share it with you, if you actually care at all. But yes, I applied to university a few months ago now. In the past I didn't do well in school, in fact I failed school. Not for any bad reason other than I just didn't try at the time, which was a really bad idea I guess. So it was a bad reason. And then I didn't actually go to college, so I don't really have any qualifications to show for my name. But a couple of years ago I decided to start studying with the Open University, and I've been studying humanities with them. And I passed my first module last year with a distinction. And so I just felt I'd like to apply to a brick university, an actual university, so that I could get face-to-face teaching. And so I applied to Sussex back in January, and just today I finally got a response from them, and they've given me an unconditional offer to study a degree in philosophy starting in September. So from September I'm going to be a slightly more mature student at 28 years old, and I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, I just wanted to share it with you just because I'm excited and I'm in the celebrating mood. I would just like to also issue a correction. In the last video on this route, when we were departing Los Angeles, I said that we appeared to be passing a storm drain. What I thought was the storm drain is actually the Los Angeles River, and apparently, even though it's dry, as you could probably see, there was no water in it. When it rains in the mountains, that river certainly does fill up and flow with water. But as Los Angeles is in sort of a deserty area, the river is quite often dry. So yeah, I'd just like to say that the reason why I don't talk about myself in these videos a lot, and it's something that a couple of people have mentioned to me before, is just because on the whole, I feel if I go on too much about stuff that is irrelevant to the journey that we're on, it could actually detract from the learning experience, and I'm creating these route learning videos as a learning experience. I probably could waffle on in these videos and just talk and talk and talk, but I just feel it would actually detract from what I'm trying to achieve. However, when I do create the question and answer video, which should be within the next week or two, I'll certainly be sharing a lot more about myself and also answering every question I've received. And there's quite a few questions now which I think I can really go into and explain quite a lot. So thank you for all of the questions so far, but I would also like to remind you that up until I'm going to make the video, you can continue to ask as many questions as you like. There are actually no speed changes between Irvine and San Juan Capistrano right up until just before the platform there, where the speed limit will then drop to 60 miles per hour. And so there's actually not a lot that we need to do on this section, even though the gradient keeps changing, going up and down. There's just very, very little to do. Even if I leave it in full power now, we still won't exceed the speed limit. Though once we do get to around 85 miles per hour, I am then going to just reduce the power to idle and allow the train to coast, as we are on a downhill section, and if I just idle the power, we won't speed up and exceed 90 miles per hour. So I'm just going to cut the power down now. And so the power is now in idle, and if I just leave it in idle for now, we should be absolutely fine as we head towards San Juan Capistrano. We will be going through another station before that called Laguna Niguel, and the gradient will level off just before Laguna Niguel station, at which point I will then apply just a little bit of power until the gradient starts going down again just after the station. The gradient will be levelling off in a moment, just as we've rounded this very light left-hand curve here. So as I said, I'm going to apply a little bit of power once the gradient does level off. And in fact you can see the grade change just here. So I'm just going to give us two notches of power now to try and ensure that we don't lose too much speed. We are now passing through Laguna Niguel station. We're now at the start of single track running on this journey, and in fact we're going to be on single tracks for most of the way to Oceanside, with just a few double track sections in between. The gradient is now pretty much level up until the next signal, at which point we're then going to start going downhill again on a 1% grade. At the next signal we've also then got around 1.5 miles to go to the 60 mph speed limit which I mentioned, and around 2 miles to go to the stop at San Juan Capistrano. You can see that the downhill grade is starting now, so I'm just idling the power to allow the train to coast, and in doing so we shouldn't exceed the speed limit. At the next whistle board I'm then going to activate the dynamic brake and start to slow down. As we're going on a downhill grade, it's actually a lot more difficult to slow down, and so we won't be able to slow down as quick as we usually would. So you can see that we've just passed the whistle board now, and so I've turned on the dynamic brake. And I'm now going to increase it up to full to help bring our speed down. As you probably just noticed at the second whistle board there, I did apply some air brake just to try and bring our speed off a bit quicker, as we are now approaching our stop. And as you can see, we're now entering the 60 mph speed zone. I am leaving the bell on at this point, as we'll shortly be entering the platform and we will need the bell on as we do so. You can see the platform just coming up now, and in fact the grade steepens just before the platform to 1.5%. which makes it even more difficult to slow down than usual. At this point I'm now going to deactivate the dynamic braking and just use the air brakes to bring us to a stop just beyond the point here. And so we should now be stopped in about the right place. Departing from San Juan Capistrano, the starting speed limit is 60 mph, and we've got just over 29 miles to go to the next and final stop for this part of the journey, which is Oceanside. The speed limit will shortly be falling to 40 mph, so as we're now reaching 40, I'm going to idle the power and allow the train to coast. I will use some slight air brakes if necessary, just to bring our speed slightly down. We want the green dot next to the 40 to not be illuminated, to know that we're definitely below the speed limit. So I'm just applying a slight bit of light braking there, and as you can now see, we're definitely below the 40 mile per hour speed limit. I'm going to continue to allow the train to coast along here. In a moment we will have a double track section, which is just about to start now, and we do need to take note of the signal aspect just here, which is an approach signal. This means prepare to stop at the next signal, and do not exceed 30 miles per hour if you're in a freight train, and 40 miles per hour if you're in a passenger train. So even if the speed limit it goes above 40 now, which it will do in a minute, we cannot exceed 40 miles per hour until we've seen the next signal and know what aspect it is displaying. The speed limit is now going up to 60 miles per hour. However, as I said, we cannot go up to that speed due to the current signal aspect. In a moment I'm going to apply the dynamic brakes and prepare to stop at a potential red signal, which should be coming up soon. There will be a triangular warning board very shortly for an upcoming 45 mile per hour speed limit. At that triangular warning, that's the point at which I will then apply the dynamic brakes and activate them, and prepare to stop at the potential red signal until I can see whether it is displaying red or another aspect. You can see that we're now passing the triangular warning board, so I am activating the dynamic braking system. The signal is coming up on our right hand side very soon, and the dynamic brakes are now activated, so I'm going straight up to full, and then I will use the air brakes as required to bring our speed off further. We are going downhill as steep as 1.2% at this point, which is making it much slower for us to slow down than we usually would. You can now see the signal coming up ahead, so I'm now applying the air brakes to bring our speed off more, and as we get below 20 miles per hour I'm now going to deactivate the dynamic braking system. So we are now stopped at the red signal, and we're just waiting for the single track section ahead to be cleared, and in fact you can see that it's a freight train that's holding us up here, and once that has cleared the points we will then be able to go. However, this being an American freight train, as you can imagine, it's quite long. It's going to probably take a minute or two to get past us. So as you can see, the signal did quickly clear to green, and so we are now cleared to go. The speed limit is shortly going to be dropping to 45 miles per hour. And in fact, I believe that's at the yellow board you can see just ahead, just before the left-hand curve there. Straight after the curve here at the yellow board, the speed limit is going up to 90 miles per hour. As you can see, we hadn't quite reached 40 as we passed the 90 mile per hour speed board, so we don't need to do anything, and I can just leave the train in full power to continue to accelerate. So from this point you can now see to our right the Pacific Ocean. We have now turned and we're following a coastal path most of the way to San Diego, in fact, from this point. The next speed change will be a reduction down to 40 miles per hour, and so what we need to look out for along here is a triangular warning board for the 40 mile per hour speed limit, which is about a mile from the limit itself. We're now passing the triangular warning board, so what I'm going to do is idle the power at the end of this left-hand curve here, and then I'm going to activate the dynamic brake as we enter the following right-hand curve. And so now the dynamic brake is active, and I've just taken it up to full to bring our speed off quite nicely as we slow for the upcoming 40 mile per hour speed limit. As you probably noticed, I did use a little bit of air braking there, as I felt that our speed wasn't quite coming off quick enough, and so we did slow down for the 40 mile per hour speed limit in time. We've just passed through San Clemente station. I believe that's how it's pronounced. It could be San Clement actually. Again, please do let me know in the comments. We're now going uphill on a 0.7% grade, so I'm going to be going between notches 1 and 2 power to try and ensure that we don't lose or gain too much speed. grade will shortly be changing to a downhill 0.8% grade, so I am watching the speedometer carefully, and if we start gaining too much speed I will then idle the power. We're now passing San Clemente Pier. I've just applied a little bit of dynamic braking as I felt we were speeding up slightly too much there, so I'm just using a minimal application of the dynamic brakes to control our speed. At this point we're just allowing the train to continue to coast. In fact we're losing a little bit too much speed now, so I'm putting 1 notch of power on to bring our speed up slightly, I'm hoping. The speed limit will shortly be going up to 70 miles per hour, so we just need to look out for the speed board for that now. We are now passing the 70 mile per hour speed board, and we can accelerate for that just at the end of the rocks on the right here, should I say just before the end. So I'm now going to go into full power to accelerate up towards that. The speed limit will shortly be going up to 75 miles per hour. However, at the 75 board, we're only then half a mile from the from an upcoming 60 mile per hour speed limit. So as we pass the 75 mile per hour speed board, at that point I'm going to activate the dynamic braking once again, just to ensure that we slow down to 60 in time. I have now idled the power, and we're now passing the 75 mile per I will get my words right, the 75 mile per hour speed board. Apologies for my stuttering there. And so now I've got the dynamic brake in full, just to bring our speed back down towards 60. We're now entering the 60 mph speed zone, and then in a short distance the speed limit will then be going up to 70 mph. We are now passing the 70 mph speedboard, so I'm now going to go straight into full power. We're actually starting a climb here as steep as 1.2%, which will severely affect our ability to accelerate. The speed limit is shortly going up to 90 mph, though due to the grade it is going to take a little while before we can actually achieve that speed. As you can see, we are now on another double track section, and we'll be on this for several miles before the track then returns back to a single track section. Although there are not many stops between Irvine and Oceanside, in the next video between Oceanside and San Diego there will actually be quite a number of stops, in fact the most stops of any of the parts on this journey, and that's due to the schedule of the train that I specifically chose for this journey. When I created this scenario I chose Amtrak train 784 specifically because it has all of the coaster stops between Oceanside and San Diego, which means there's a lot more to do and a lot more to teach when making that video. There are actually now no major speed changes until we're within about 3 to 4 miles of Oceanside, where there will then be a speed reduction down to 75 mph. So along here it's just a case of watching our speed against the grade. While at the minute we're going uphill and we're accelerating very slowly, there will be points where we level off and also go downhill along this section. So we just have to be very mindful of what grade we're on versus the power setting to try and balance our speed as close to the speed limit as possible. And that's one of the keys to driving a train, is balancing your speed. It's something that's actually quite challenging and takes quite a while to pick up, but if you can perfect it, then it really helps, especially when driving without the HUD, where you can't actually see so well how quickly you're accelerating or decelerating. As you can see, we are now entering a single track section once again. Shortly after entering this single track section, the grade will be going down at 1%. So I am just going to watch our speed to ensure that we don't break the speed limit. So we are currently going down at 1%, but then just after this right hand curve the grade is then going to be going up at 0.4%. And so from this point on we're going to go through a series of grade changes, a bit like a roller coaster, just not as severe or as fun, unfortunately. And that's something I've always fancied doing, speaking of roller coasters, just a completely random thought, but you guys in America, you know how to do roller coasters. Us in the UK, we really don't. And I have to say, I would absolutely love to go on a tour of all of the theme parks in the US and go on some of the awesome roller coasters you have that I can only dream of having over here in the UK. I have now temporarily idled the power as I felt we were just getting a bit too close to 90 miles per hour there. As I said, I want to ensure we don't break the speed limit. I believe we are on a slight downhill grade here as well, so I'm just going to watch our speed now to ensure we don't gain or lose too much. As you can see, the grade is changing once again, so I am now just going to give us a little bit of power and watch what happens to our speed. The grade will be going downhill again at the second overbridge just here, so we've just passed under the first overbridge, and you can see the second overbridge coming up now. And so just after that we will be going down at 1% once again, and at that point I will then idle the power and just allow the train to continue to coast. It does appear we're losing a little bit of speed here, so I'm now giving us 1 notch of power, just to bring our speed back up slightly. I have now idled the power once again, as we've now got up to around 90 miles per hour. You can see there's a huge gradient change coming up just ahead, and in fact the gradient is shortly going to be going up at 1.2%. So in a moment I'm going to go straight into full power, as we're about to lose a good few miles per hour of speed. So I'm now in full power as we've entered the uphill section, which isn't all that long at this grade. The grade will then shortly be going downhill at 0.8% and then levelling out. So we're now about to start on the down 0.8% grade, so at this point I'm now reducing the power to notch 1, and that should ensure that we roughly maintain this speed. The grade is now levelling out. As you probably noticed, the grade has just changed once again. The next speed change will be a reduction to 75 miles per hour, and so we do need to look out for that as we get closer to it. We'll just increase the power slightly once again, just to point out, as we are in fact losing some speed now. So what we're looking for now is a track to appear on the right hand side, a loop I believe it is, or a siding. But once the track does appear on the right hand side, that then means we've got 1 mile to go to the upcoming 75 mile per hour speed limit. I am just giving us a little bit more power now. As you can see, the grade is climbing again. And so we're now in notch 4 of power. As you can see, the track is now appearing on the right hand side, so at this point I'm now going to idle the power. I'm going to activate the dynamic braking for the 75 mile per hour speed limit as soon as we see the triangular warning board. So we're now using full dynamic braking just to bring our speed down. We will be crossing the point in a moment, and I believe we are now doing 75 miles per hour. So I have now deactivated the dynamic braking system. I've just applied a tiny bit of air brake just to ensure that we were below 75. Just as we join this single track section here, the speed limit is going back up to 90 miles per hour. However, we're only 1 mile from another speed reduction, back down to 75 miles per hour. So I see very little point in accelerating here. And I'm just going to try and aim to maintain 75. In fact, as you just seen, we just passed the triangular warning board for the 75 mile per hour speed limit. I am giving us a little bit of power here as we are going uphill just slightly. In fact, I've gone up to notch 4 of power as I felt that we were losing a little bit too much speed. The speed limit here is now falling back to 75 miles per hour. In a short distance it will then be increasing once again to 90. However, the 90 mile per hour speed board is only around half a mile, or should I say 1 mile, I believe, to the next speed change, which is a reduction down to 55 miles per hour. In fact, I've got to correct both of them. I've just checked my notes. It's actually 3/4 of a mile from the 90 mile per hour speed board to the 55 mile per hour speed limit, which is right in between the two distances which I said. The speed limit just here is now going back up to 90 miles per hour. As I just mentioned, it is 3/4 of a mile from the 55 mile per hour speed limit which is upcoming. So I'm now going to be looking for the triangular warning board for the 55 mile per hour speed limit, which will be coming up in a moment. And so I'm idling the power now and activating the dynamic brake. In fact, you can see we're just passing the 55 warning now. The dynamic brake is now in full to bring our speed down, and I'm going to use some air braking as well to ensure that we slow down quick enough for the 55 limit. So we've just entered the 55 limit now at just the right speed, and we're now just over half a mile from an upcoming 40 mile per hour speed limit. So I'm just going to leave the dynamic brake in full and allow us to slow to 40 and then release the dynamic braking. As you can see, I have now deactivated the dynamic brake, and we are now entering the 40 mile per hour speed zone. Oceanside station is now coming up, which you can see just ahead. So at this point I'm now going to idle the power, and in a moment I'm going to activate the dynamic braking system. The speed limit here has just gone up to 90 miles per hour. However, there's absolutely no point in accelerating as the station, well, you can see the platform just ahead now. As we've now entered the platform, I'm about to deactivate the dynamic braking system and then use the air brakes to bring us to a stop. I wasn't sure what the correct stopping point here is at Oceanside, so I'm going to aim to stop at the end of the platform, just to guess at that could be the right place. So here we are, arrival at Oceanside. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope that you've enjoyed this part of the video. I'm hoping to make part 3 from Oceanside to San Diego very soon. So thank you for watching, and if you would like to find me on Facebook, then you can do so. I've put the link to my Facebook page in the description of every video. If you appreciate the work that I do and would like to support me financially, then please do visit my Patreon page for further information. Again, the link for that is in the description of the video, and if you did enjoy the video, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, thanks for watching.